Listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you see attraction forever. Most men go through life completely blind to the hidden signals women send every single day. Signals of desire, of craving, of raw attraction they're desperately trying to conceal. And right now, you're missing them. You're letting opportunity after opportunity slip through your fingers because you've been conditioned to look for the wrong things. You've been waiting for some grand declaration, some obvious sign, but real desire doesn't work that way. It whispers. It lingers in the space between words. It hides in plain sight, screaming at you in a language you've never been taught to understand. But today, that changes. Today you'll learn the truth about the 4 undeniable signs a woman is secretly craving you. Signs so subtle, so perfectly disguised that 99% of men will miss them entirely. These aren't guesses. These aren't pickup artist tricks. These are the psychological patterns of female attraction, backed by science, proven by results, and waiting right now for you to finally see them. By the time this video ends, you'll never look at a woman's body language the same way again. You'll recognize the hunger in her eyes, the intention behind her touch, the silent plea buried in her laughter. And most importantly, you'll know exactly what to do about it. So lean in, pay attention, because everything you thought you knew about attraction is wrong. And what comes next will shock you. Let's talk about something fundamental. Something that, once you see it, where the world seems to slow down for just a second, that's not in your head. That's real. That's her desire leaking through the cracks of her composure. And what about the way she remembers things? You mentioned some small detail, a favorite movie, a childhood memory, a random fact you find interesting, and weeks later, she brings it up like it's nothing. The human brain is wired to prioritize what it cares about. When she files away little pieces of you, when she uses them later to connect, that's not just good listening. That's investment. That's her mind holding on to you because you matter more than she's willing to admit out loud. Now here's the problem. Most men don't see these signs for what they are. They dismiss them as coincidence, as friendliness, as meaningless quirks. And because of that, arm lingering just a second too long. That's not an accident. That's a test. She's seeing how you react. Does your body language open up? Do you lean into it or do you freeze, pull away, miss the cue entirely? Every one of these moments is a silent question. Do you feel this too? And if you don't respond, she'll assume the answer is no. Then there's eye contact. The eyes are the most honest part of the human body. You can fake a smile, you can force a laugh, but the eyes, they betray the truth. When a woman holds your gaze just a fraction longer than normal, when she looks away but keeps finding her way back to you, that's not politeness. That's intensity. That's her subconscious pulling her toward you, even if her words don't say it. And if you've ever felt that electric moment where the air between men do, they don't always say it outright. They don't always make the first move. But that doesn't mean they aren't speaking. They are, just in a language most men never learn to decode. Think about it like this. In nature, animals don't just charge at each other without signaling first. There's a dance, a series of tests, a way of measuring interest before action. Human beings are no different. Women especially operate on a level of subtlety because they have to. Society conditions them to be cautious, to avoid seeming too forward, to protect themselves from rejection or misunderstanding. So instead of saying, I want you, they show you in ways that fly under the radar if you're not paying attention. Take touch, for example. When a woman finds reasons to put her hands on you, adjusting your collar, brushing your they miss the opportunities right in front of them. They think attraction has to be loud, has to be obvious, has to come with some grand declaration. But real desire doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. And if you're not listening, you'll never hear it. So what do you do with this? First, you pay attention. Stop assuming that if she isn't throwing herself at you, she isn't interested. Start noticing the micro signals, the way her body angles toward you in conversation, the way she laughs a little too hard at your jokes, the way she finds reasons to be near you. These aren't random. They're data. And if you learn to read them, you'll realize how many women have been quietly showing you their interest all along. Second, you respond, not with overeagerness, not with desperation, but with the quiet confidence of a man who knows what he's seeing. If she touches you, hold her gaze and see how she reacts. If she remembers something you said, acknowledge it. I'm impressed you remembered that. If she's giving you these signals, she wants you to notice. She wants you to act. But she needs to know you're perceptive enough to catch what she's putting down. And finally, you understand the stakes. Because here's the truth. If you keep missing these signs, she'll assume you're not interested. Or worse, that you're not capable of leading the kind of dynamic she craves. Women respect men who can see beneath the surface. They're drawn to men who understand the unspoken. And if you prove you're one of those men, that's when the real connection begins. So ask yourself, how many signals have you missed? How many times has a woman been speaking lies in the fundamental asymmetry of social risk? For a woman, openly expressing desire has historically carried far greater consequences than it does for a man. Rejection isn't just an emotional blow. It can reshape her social standing, her reputation, even her sense of safety. So she adapts. She communicates in layers, in hints, in what isn't said outright. But make no mistake, that doesn't make her attraction any less real. It just makes it strategic. Take the phenomenon of jealousy. When a woman subtly tenses up as you mention another woman, when her tone shifts just slightly from warm to clipped, when she playfully probes for details about who you've been spending time with, that's not casual curiosity. That's the unmistakable flare of possessiveness. And possessiveness doesn't emerge from indifference. It emerges from, come to you in a language you didn't understand, and most importantly, now that you do understand, what are you going to do about it? The choice is yours. Pay attention or stay blind. Let's cut through the noise and address something critical. When a woman is attracted to you, she is communicating it. Just not in the way you might expect. The signals are there, pulsing beneath the surface of every interaction, but they require a specific kind of awareness to interpret correctly. This isn't about playing games or decoding some impossible cipher. It's about recognizing that human attraction, at its core, is a negotiation between vulnerability and self-protection. And women, by necessity, have mastered the art of expressing interest while still maintaining plausible deniability. Consider this. Why would she hide it at all? The answer, investment. The key here is to notice the discrepancy between her words and her energy. She might say, "Oh, that's cool," but if her posture closes off, if her smile doesn't reach her eyes, if she suddenly changes the subject, you're witnessing something primal. She's marking territory, even if she'd never admit it. Then there's the way she mirrors you. Mirroring is one of the most reliable indicators of subconscious attraction. When she starts adopting your speech patterns, your gestures, even your opinions, that's not coincidence. It's connection. The human brain is wired to sync up with people it feels drawn to. It's why couples who've been together for years start to look alike. Why close friends finished each other's sentences. When she unconsciously mimics the way you lean in, the rhythm of your laughter, the phrases you use, she's signaling alignment. She's trying to bridge the gap between you without having to spell it out. And what about the stories she tells? Pay attention to how she frames her past, her vulnerabilities, her ambitions when she's around you. If she's sharing more than she would with just anyone, if she's letting you see behind the curtain, that's not just conversation, it's trust. Women don't open up to men they see as transient. They open up to men they're testing for permanence. Every personal detail, every moment of emotional exposure is a quiet invitation. Can you handle this? Do you want to? Now here's where most men fail. They either miss these signals entirely or they see them but hesitate. They second guess, they wait for more obvious signs, they convince themselves they're imagining things, and in that hesitation, the moment passes. Because attraction isn't static, it's a current. If you don't step into it, it moves on. So what's the solution? First, trust your perception. If you sense something beneath her words, you're probably right. Second, respond proportionally. You don't have to declare your feelings or make some grand gesture. Just meet her where she is. If she's testing the waters with touch, reciprocate subtly. And if she's sharing something personal, match her vulnerability. If she's showing jealousy, acknowledge it without accusation. You seem a little bothered by that. Should I be flattered? The goal isn't to call her out, but to validate what she's too cautious to say outright. And finally, recognize the power dynamic at play. When a woman hides her attraction, she's not just protecting herself. She isn't infinite. Interest isn't unconditional. That spark you feel, that tension between you, isn't some permanent state of being. It's a living thing, and like all living things, it needs to be fed or it dies. Here's what you need to understand. When a woman shows interest, whether openly or through those subtle signals we've discussed, she's not just expressing a feeling. She's extending an invitation, and invitations by their very nature have an expiration date. Think about it. When someone invites you to an event, there's a window to RSVP. Wait too long and the opportunity passes. Can you lead without being overbearing? Can you read between the lines without making her feel exposed? Can you handle the responsibility of knowing she wants you even if she can't say it yet? These are the questions she's answering in real time. And every interaction is your chance to prove you're the kind of man who understands the weight of that. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're with a woman and you feel that unspoken tension, that magnetic pull you can't quite define, don't dismiss it. That's not confusion. That's clarity. And it's waiting for you to act. The boldest thing you can do isn't pretending you don't see it. It's stepping into the space she's already created for you. Let's address the uncomfortable truth about attraction that most men refuse to confront. It operates on a timeline, chemistry, and receives no reciprocal energy. Her subconscious makes a brutal calculation. This isn't worth my investment. It's not petty. It's not games. It's self-preservation. Why would she continue directing emotional energy towards someone who doesn't meet her halfway? Consider the biological underpinnings. Women are the selectors of the species. This isn't opinion, it's evolutionary fact. Our attraction mechanisms are finely tuned to identify men who display decisive, confident behavior because these traits historically correlated with survival advantages. Hesitation in this framework isn't just unattractive. It reads as dangerous, not physically necessarily, but dangerous to her future, to her emotional well-being, to the potential of wasting precious time and energy. Now let's examine how this plays out in real time. When we see between those two outcomes comes down to one thing: your willingness to act when the iron is hot. So what does action actually look like? It doesn't mean grand gestures or premature declarations. It means calibrated responses that match and slightly exceed her level of investment. If she touches your arm, you guide her hand for an extra second. If she mentions being free this weekend, you propose concrete plans. If she shares something vulnerable, you reciprocate with your own meaningful disclosure. This is the dance, step for step, always leading just slightly. The critical insight here is that timing matters more than perfection. You don't need flawless execution, you need any execution that demonstrates you're awake to the dynamic between you. A mediocre but timely response will always outperform a perfect but delayed. She gives you that lingering look across the room, and you look away. When she finds reasons to be near you, and you don't escalate the contact. when she drops those little hints about her availability and you change the subject. Each of these is a test, not a manipulative one, but an instinctive assessment. Can this man recognize and act on opportunity? Every missed signal isn't just a missed moment. It's erosion of her belief in you as someone capable of leading the interaction forward. This is where most men make their fatal error. They assume attraction is static, that if she likes him today, she'll like him tomorrow. But female attraction doesn't work like a light switch, on or off. It works more like a fire. Leave it unattended and it dwindles to embers. Feed it at the right moments and it becomes an inferno. The different one. Why? Because it proves you're present, engaged, and capable of navigating the unspoken currents of attraction. Now, let's talk about the cost of inaction. Every day you spend paralyzed by overanalysis is a day her initial interest compounds into frustration, then resignation, then indifference. The transition happens gradually, then all at once. One day she's laughing at your jokes and finding reasons to be near you. The next, she's polite but distant. And men who miss this shift often make their second fatal error. They suddenly realize what they're losing and come on too strong, too late. This only confirms her growing suspicion that you lack the emotional intelligence to read the room. Here's the hard truth. Women don't lose interest because they're fickle. They lose interest because they're perceptive. They recognize before you do when something isn't going anywhere. And once that realization crystallizes, it's extraordinarily difficult to reverse. The window doesn't just close, it locks. So where does this leave you? With a simple but profound choice to become the kind of man who recognizes opportunity and acts on it, not recklessly, but with the quiet confidence of someone who understands that timing is everything. The next time you sense that spark, that unspoken connection, ask yourself one question. If not now, when? Because in the economy of attraction, hesitation is the most expensive currency. And only you can decide how much you're willing